Jack Smith, the special counsel, was asking them to do something very unusual, which is skip over the appeals court stage. He said, this matter is just so urgent. We need to get this trial going. There's a trial date that's supposed to start March the 4th. That is in some jeopardy now. And the Supreme Court, in a pretty abrupt order, just said, no, we're not going to do it. No explanation. Nobody noting publicly that they dissented.
Well, so let's talk about why they may not have done this. Essentially, it just means that they may agree enough with what Trump's defense team was arguing, this idea that there was no real good enough reason provided by Jack Smith for this, or we just can't tell.
Yeah, you don't want to read too much into it because, they didn't give any explanation, except that they just did not want to take this unusual step. And certainly you don't want to read anything to it about the merits. The Federal Appeals Court, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit, is planning to hold arguments on a very expedited schedule, hearing arguments on January the 9th. So the Supreme Court knows that it won't be too long before they have another chance at this. So that undoubtedly is part of their thinking. They're looking at the calendar and thinking it won't be that long before we have a chance, and then we can do it in the normal course, and we can consider what these judges on the appeals court say about the issue.
Well, on the idea of this being about the timeline, Greg, this was the whole notion of why Jack Smith was making this request in the first place, because he wants the trial in this case to start on March 4th. So would there still be time for this to sort out theoretically before that date if appeals isn't going to hear it until January 9th? I mean, how quickly do these things usually escalate back up to the Supreme Court?
Yeah, it's going to be tight, Kayleigh. Even if the D.C. Circuit moves very quickly, as it's indicated it's going to, there are pretrial proceedings that were supposed to start. Those are actually on hold now. Normally under the usual rules, the losing side has 45 days to decide whether they're going to seek rehearing from a bigger panel of judges on the appeals court, and then 90 days to go up to the Supreme Court. So it could add a lot of time. Now there's a lot of ifs there. There are potentially other things that could happen, but safe to say the idea of starting on March the 4th is less viable than it was a half hour ago.
Really interesting. And Greg, of course, this is not the only case related to former President Trump and the Supreme Court that we've been talking about this week, because after the Colorado State Supreme Court ruling earlier this week, when they said on 14th Amendment grounds he is ineligible to be president of the United States again because of his actions on January 6, 2021, the expectation is that Trump is going to appeal that to the Supreme Court. We haven't had any movement on that, right? Should we expect that soon? And if that is the case, how quickly is the court likely to move in that case?
So the Colorado Supreme Court has put its ruling on hold. So there's not necessarily an urgency for Trump to come to the Supreme Court. He has until January the 4th under the Colorado court's ruling. And after that, the Supreme Court, they could expedite it. They could, try to speed things up so they could hear the case this term if that's what they want to do. That would be my expectation, is that they would speed it up so they at least could hear it this term. For now, we're just waiting for that appeal to come in.